on the left is Franklin D. Roosevelt, the 32nd president of the United States, who famously suffered from poliomyelitis, which is a virus that can cause paralysis. On the right is Mary McMillan. She was a Reconstruction aide who helped rehabilitate soldiers coming back from World War I. Polio and the need to treat injured troops is what helped establish the profession we now know as physical therapy. Today, physical therapy is a 3-year doctoral program, and it's offered at institutions around the country. It's an in-demand and growing profession and can include specializations in areas of pediatrics, geriatrics, or wound care. The only place in Idaho to study or to get a doctoral degree in physical therapy is at Idaho State University. Now, North Dakota, by comparison, which is a smaller state even than Idaho, it has 3 places to study. And so because of this, Idaho's long-established PT program decided to expand to a satellite campus in Meridian. And they did this with distance learning video teleconferencing technology. Now, it's not a stranger to that technology. It does have 3 other satellite campuses besides the main one in Pocatello. But that decision to expand was to hopefully increase the amount of physical therapists practicing in our state and to meet a growing need. You can do distance learning a lot of different ways, but important distinction, and one thing that Idaho State strives for is the regular and substantive interaction. And to qualify for federal aid, you have to meet that standard. So I don't know that Sally over here or Sal from the Khan Academy would necessarily do that. Most distance learning classes also include some sort of learning management system. And all that is just software that helps administer how the course is conducted. And it might offer things like a discussion group or a grade book or an electronic way for students to submit assignments. Idaho State uses Moodle, but there's a few other players in the game as well. So at Idaho State, essentially their traditional way was there would be a classroom on the main campus in Pocatello and a classroom on the satellite campus in Meridian, and they would link up in this sort of hub metaphor that I've got, and the students would interact with their instructor either in person in the room and or through the screens in front of the room. Double your pleasure, double your fun. ISU really tried to achieve parity between its 2 campuses. So each campus has 24 students each. Each campus has roughly the same amount of faculty available, and each campus also has a clinic on both sites. So they really wanted the students to perceive the campuses as equally good. Now, there's some struggles with this too. In this case, the power went out on one campus, but not the other. And so that parity can also be disruptive as well, because things like fire drills, power outages, or extreme weather can cause the opposite campus to stop learning as well. So it's not all gravy. Another thing that ISU Physical Therapy did was invest in people, and one of those positions was a dedicated person committed to operating, maintaining the distance learning equipment, which I'm going to show you here in just a minute. And that's sort of unique that they put one on each site, because that's an investment in personnel. But I think it is something that's paid off. We'll talk about that in a second. Another thing that it did was put multiple cameras in the classrooms. And this gives students a lot of different perspectives when they're learning physical therapy techniques. And it also allows instructors to teach more organically, because they don't have to consider where they're looking relative to where the camera is. So that was an investment that they made. Those cameras on the left there, you can see, also have robotic controls, so that can pan, tilt, zoom, and expose, adjust it for exposure, all remotely. A touch panel in each classroom is customizable and programmable by the specialist. And using wireless mics is actually expensive, but it's also worthwhile because it allows more freedom of movement. And again, because they're touching each other all the time. Now, this equipment, really the big goal is to improve the student experience, to maybe reduce the distance metaphorically. There is research that shows that instructor immediacy is a factor that's affected when you put distance, either physically or by time, between the student and the instructor. So all this equipment is really, part of it's a technical consideration, but really it's to improve the way, the fidelity and the signals that the students get, so they can feel more connected with their classmates and their instructors. That slide shows an example of all the gear used for just one classroom. And again, we have 6. So was this all worth it? I'm not an economist, but I would say so. In 2021, we graduated our first graduating class that included students from the remote campus. So essentially, we doubled the amount of physical therapists that are trained and in the workforce now, from 24 to 48. Also in 2020, we experienced COVID along with everybody else. And for a short period of time, we moved into remote work from home environments, and students also studying from home. Of course, the amount of Zoom use expanded dramatically during that time. But our students actually adapted pretty well because they were already used to what you see on the left, getting some of their instruction through screen media and through synchronous video conferencing. And so now we're in this more hybrid model on the right, where there's one or more access points bridging through this. Now, interestingly, one of our faculty actually studied a group that was affected by that change. And his research was a qualitative study of surveying students and faculty. And one thing he noted was students perceived minimal adverse effects due to the change in technology because of COVID. And interesting note from the faculty was they noted decreased student interaction, but better name recognition, again, because of seeing the name right below the thumbnail in the Zoom app, environment. Now, unexpected benefit to this was pre-COVID, students reported feeling pretty well connected with the cohort on their respective campus, but not necessarily with each other. And then after COVID, where they did more stuff on Zoom, sort of equalized the distance. And so they felt more cohesiveness as a single group in that regard. So to close this up, I just want to tell you that physical therapy is a growing industry. It's in high demand in Idaho and around the country. And Idaho State University has expanded its program by offering it through distance learning and using video teleconferencing to do so. Thank you for listening.